Welcome to Explosive Enterprises, and we are long overdue for another round of Q&A. So today, let's get right into it with a mixture of questions from our YouTube channel and our recently created Patreon. I've heard you talk about the HK53 from VFC, meaning you either have one or know of someone that has one. Is there a possibility you could do a review of that replica? A lot of people have been asking us about the HK53, and we've been kind of reluctant to do more content on it because it's very, very similar to the MP5. However, we do, in fact, have access to one. And while it is similar to the MP5, it does actually fix a lot of things about that platform while being a little bit different. So I think we've decided to strike a compromise where we're going to do a review of the HK53, but it's going to be basically talking about how it's different from the MP5. So it's not going to be quite a standalone review, but it should cover all the important high points, and look forward to that at some point in the near future. Do you guys have any good recommendations for a fake EOTech clone that's still quality? We've heard the most positive sentiment about the Evolution Gear EOTech clones. The problem with EOTech clones in general is that they're taking a particular technology that the EOTechs are designed around, which is holographic technology, and they're instead replicating it as a red dot. That's never going to give you quite the same performance. It's not going to behave the same way. The reticles don't look the same. They don't have the same clarity of glass. But if you really insist on getting something that looks like an EOTech, then that's probably your best bet for a red dot. I would say that if you're in the US, though, you're probably better off just waiting for a good deal on an EOTech. You can get older models like the 512 pretty routinely for around $300 in decent condition. If you're not looking for specifically an EOTech, though, there are some really good budget red dots out there. The SIG Romeo 5s and Romeo 7s in particular are very cheap for what you get, and they're cheaper than even a lot of the higher-end clone optics of things like EOTechs, while still giving you all the functionality that you need. Any comments about the KWA M11A1 NS2? Yes, actually, I had one. I dressed it up as a gangster gun. I used it with a suppressor at a particular Milsim West event where we ran a coffee shop. It was fun for what it was, but it was just generally not a very good replica. It had severe hop issues that could not be overcome. It really struggled with cold weather. The efficiency wasn't amazing for how little mass it was pushing. Like, there's no recoil to it whatsoever. And it also had this very peculiar design where it relied on the inertia of the bolt carrier coming back to force the nozzle to retract. So if it wasn't sufficiently lubricated, it would actually just not feed at all, which was very strange. Ultimately, I got rid of it. Really, just for me, a gun that I can't trust to hop very well is not one that I generally end up keeping. Is there a GBB pistol you can recommend for best build quality and performance? I mean, there are a lot of possible candidates for answering this question, but I would say in general, Tokyo Marui's more recent designs, like anything made in the last 10 years or so, is generally a safe bet. The sidearm that I've been getting the most use out of is a Tokyo Marui USP. This one has a garter body kit, so aluminum kit, but internally it's almost entirely stock. The only thing that I've changed about it internally is I've swapped out the bucking for a quad bucking, and that's only to help it hop heavier BBs. Now, you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, if you get a high kappa, you need to swap out this and that and this and that and a bunch of parts. You're going to buy a $150 pistol and put $300 parts into it before you're even able to field it. I really disagree with that. I think that stock Tokyo Marui guns work a lot better than most people think, and the most likely outcome of putting a bunch of money into one is that you make it run worse. So there are very specific things that can be addressed on some of them. For example, on high kappas, it's generally a good idea if you're going to run it on propane with otherwise stock parts to slightly increase the hammer spring strength. That'll actually slow down the slide so that it doesn't slam into the back and crack at the rear sight, which is a known issue. But for the most part, you could just pick up an off-the-shelf TM pistol and just run it. I mean, their M9s are plastic, yes, but they work really well. The USP out of the box is plastic. It works really well. And then down the line, if you want to make it a little fancier, you can always get an aluminum kit. Like I said, this is a garter kit on top of the TM USP, and that gets me a pistol that performs excellently and looks great, feels great, absolutely no complaints. For someone new to airsoft, which brand should be avoided? Okay, now, At the risk of sounding like a hypocrite, because I literally just said to look at TM pistols, we generally don't look at brands as a whole, we look more at specific models. And to that point, there's a reason why I said look at TMs from the last 10 years, because the older ones have a lot more problems and are much less likely to cooperate with propane, and particularly at the temperatures that we're playing at. Even brands that to date have yet to release a really good gun could always turn it around and make something better. So we really hate to generalize about saying certain brands, always avoid them, they're always bad, because there's always a possibility that they'll get better. I know that we've praised a lot of VFC products on this channel. I've heard that we're considered VFC shills, sure, whatever. But if you wind back the clock 10 years, VFC was putting out a lot of gas guns that looked great, felt great, and didn't work at all. And it's only been in recent years that they've actually turned that around and put out what we feel are some of the best guns on the market. So don't look at brands. Generally, good brands can have bad products, and generally bad brands can always make a good product. And just to use a case example, VFC, like I said, we praised a lot of their more recent releases. The VFC PPSH has a lot of problems, and it's not yet certain whether we can actually fix them or not. So we're still working on that. We may still do a review of the PPSH. It depends on whether we're actually able to fully disassemble the thing. That should kind of give you an indication of how bad things are going. But it's just an example that even a company that generally puts out good products can always have a bad product once in a while. So form an educated opinion, learn what you're getting into, check each model individually, consider them in a vacuum. Right, now moving over to our Patreon questions. What gun would you like to see in gas form that hasn't been done yet? That's a very broad question, and I'm going to give you 3 answers in increasing order of complexity and decreasing order of likelihood to ever happen. The simple one is the AR-18. The AR-18, if you're not familiar, is, while not militarily successful, it is the design predecessor to pretty much every short-stroke gas piston-operated Western gun on the market. I mean, the real thing doesn't actually use Stanag magazines, it uses slightly modified ones for a different magazine catch system, but you could very slightly tweak the design to just use AR mags and then just reuse an existing mag system. I mean, you could probably build one yourself using like an APFG MCX bulk carrier and VFC magazines and 3D print or machine the rest, so it's kind of surprising it doesn't exist. Second candidate, Ultimax light machine gun, just because I think it's super cool. It's a constant recoil machine gun system that's either magazine fed or drum fed. I think it'd be a really good candidate for gas blowback as a portable, handy light machine gun to use gas drums. Maybe it'll happen someday. My pie in the sky is the Objective Individual Combat Weapon, or OICW program of the 90s and early 2000s. You've probably seen this in some video game somewhere. It is essentially the assault rifle that would become the XM8 attached to a 20mm air-bursting micro-grenade launcher. I don't know if you would design that as a shotgun, as a shell-ejecting grenade launcher, something, but I would just love to see some kind of implementation of that concept. I'm interested to know what kinds of slings you typically run on your airsoft guns. Well, that's a pretty good question. Most of the team runs 2-point adjustable slings, which are, of course, pretty much the standard nowadays in any kind of tactical application. Because I'm perpetually out of date, I just use these very simple 2-point slings. I really don't think you need to go overboard with padding for the kinds of applications that we're dealing with. You shouldn't be carrying your rifle on a sling in a manner that's going to severely fatigue you for any length of time. Worst case, just sling over your shoulder and you'll be fine. What are some techniques to load BBs into a typical gas mag without buying that fancy Rolls-Royce electric loader? So you certainly don't need that EMG Autobot. I mean, I think it makes my life a lot easier, but it's absolutely not a requirement to load gas mags, and we got along just fine without them. If you buy something like a VFC, it's going to come with a loader adapter, so you can load from a regular pistol speed loader directly into the magazine. If you get something like a TM, then you can usually use the adapters that come with the speed loaders to load those magazines. In general, though, the easiest quality of life upgrade for loading mags that I can recommend is something like the Comrade Quiche speed loader adapters. You just pop that onto the magazine, then load it with your speed loader. It's by far the lowest fuss, most portable solution that we've found. You had mentioned in one of your last Q&As that you were in the process of converting the Colt LMG to the VFC system. Has there been any update? Yes, I successfully converted the Colt LMG to VFC. I used it a little bit. I decided that I ultimately wasn't super happy with the hop setup on those rifles, and I ended up selling it to a local friend. Not because I was sick of the gun or swore it off or anything, but I had had my fun with it, and I usually don't hang on to stuff for too long if I'm already bored of it and I don't see myself using it again. This was then right before I learned of both the MCX nozzle conversion and also the quad hop unit upgrade, which probably could have rectified all of my complaints. So, a little bit silly on my part, but I don't really miss it. I mean, like I said, I had my fun with it and on to other projects. What's your take on using magnified optics, such as an LPVO or magnifier? Do you think they justify the extra weight and cost? So when I got started with airsoft in the early 2010s, I used an A&K M60 and I had it outfitted with, well, this is a real one, but a replica G&P M145 machine gun optic. And that's a 3.4 times magnification optic with a nice field of view but a terrible eye box. And that was really handy for using a machine gun in the woods, both because we had long sight lines and because there'd often be people behind cover where it was very difficult to see where the BBs were going underneath canopy cover, and having a magnified optic allowed me to walk the BBs onto the target when it was just like a boot protruding from behind a tree, when I wouldn't be able to do that with the naked eye. Now, started playing at different fields, and nowadays, you probably noticed from my footage that most of my playing is on paintball-style fields. It's a very different environment, and it generally favors closer range engagements and a lot more quick engagements with people appearing from behind cover, not the sort of shootouts where I really can take my time to sight in on a scope. That said, LPVOs and magnifiers offer capability that this fixed magnification optic doesn't. For one thing, this doesn't have any kind of backup iron sight capability, so if I'm engaging at close range, I am basically just point shooting, and I really don't like having to do that. Whereas with a magnifier, with a flip to side mount, you can get that out of the way and you're back to a red dot. Decent LPVOs can go down to one-time zoom or close enough and then be used essentially like prismatic optics. And then that gives you a red dot-like capability for situations where magnification isn't warranted. So what I would say, basically, to actually answer this question is that magnification can be useful under very specific circumstances. It's good when it's difficult to track the BBs, when you're shooting at near your maximum range, or just for general player ID for longer milsim events when you see someone coming towards you and it can be hard to tell what team they're on. It's worth the extra weight if you're playing in an environment that's conducive to it, sure. As for cost, well, decent LPVOs are not cheap, so that's up to you. And the cheap ones tend to really suffer at around the lowest magnification. So you might have difficulty if you're trying to use a particularly budget LPVO as in lieu of a red dot, but it's your call. And lastly, in which aspect of airsoft would you like to see innovation or development? I have one answer for this, and I always bring it up every time people ask me about it. I would like to see more gas guns that use HPA. I think the reason why this hasn't historically been a thing is that HPA is a relative newcomer to the scene. We used to use CO2 as propellant, and that had a bunch of its own problems and was also generally tied to paintball infrastructure, but HPA is widely available now, at least in North America. It's portable, you get a lot of power density from it, and it's reliable. It delivers consistent pressure regardless of temperature. Yes, it's annoying to carry a tank, but if the HPA line goes into the gun itself and not into the magazines, which then makes it a pain to swap, then I find that I just don't even notice it in use. And for me, this idea is so compelling that I've been willing to suffer even with a WEP90 that's been tapped for HPA into the gun, and not using gas in the magazines at all. This is just using the magazines to feed BBs. It's powered by external HPA. It works in all temperatures, all weather conditions. I don't have to worry about adjusting the power. It will go through the last round in a mag just as surely as it did the first. The problem is that in almost every other way, this is a terrible gun, and I'm really only sticking with it because that concept is so promising. I would love to see more quality manufacturers do something like this. Well, if you're a manufacturer and you're thinking about making, say, an HPA-powered Ultimax, just send us an email, because I'll do terrible, terrible things to get my hands on that. Well, that's all for today. We got a couple videos coming up in the next few weeks. Our fall schedule's looking kind of busy, though, so I'm not sure how the pace of releases is going to go. If you enjoy our content, you might consider checking out our Patreon, where in addition to behind-the-scenes content, we also have free articles for the general community. I think that's all we got for today. Thanks for watching.